Yeah, so I think, Leena, if you could introduce YOUNGO, that would be great.
Sure. So YOUNGO is the official youth constituency at United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is UNFCCC, and represents the voices of young people in the climate change negotiations. YOUNGO was established in 2009 at UN Climate Change Conference, and since then has played a significant role in the climate negotiations. And YOUNGO is open to all young people between the ages of 18 and 35 who are interested in climate change issues and want to engage in the international climate negotiations. The constituency is structured into working groups that focus on various aspects of the negotiations, such as adaptation, mitigation, finance, technology, and capacity building. YOUNGO works to advocate for the interests of young people in the climate negotiations and to ensure that their voices are heard by decision makers. This includes lobbying for ambitious climate action, calling for the protection of vulnerable populations, and promoting youth empowerment and participation in the negotiation.
Great, thank you for that. I think hopefully that makes it clear what we're going to be talking about when participants want to ask questions later as well. So I'll probably pick on you again, Leena, but are you happy to start the introductions off about who you are?
Yeah, sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Leena, and I'm passionate about climate action, gender equality, and education access. And I have been working with several organizations in the climate space. And I'm also an entrepreneur, writer, and a public speaker, and talk about sustainable businesses, climate action, gender equality, and youth's involvement in the social impact sector. And I have been involved with YOUNGO since quite some time now. And I have been a part of several working groups like adaptation, action on climate education, loss and damage, and Ocean's Voice over the years. And currently, I am serving as the global contact point for reducing inequality and inclusion rights working group at YOUNGO. And I've also been a part of events like RCOI, which is the Regional Conferences of Youth, and LCOI, which is the Local Conferences of Youth, where I spoke about the importance of systematic change when it comes to plastic pollution. And I've also contributed to the National Youth Statement.
Oh, great. Fantastic, Leena. Thank you for sharing about that. That sounds, very inspiring, which I'm sure a lot of this will, we'll talk about. Shall we go to Jeffrey, perhaps, and then you can choose the next panelist to speak, and we could do it like that.
Yeah, gender balance. Okay, so I'm Jeffrey Opoku. I'm a young sustainability leader from Ghana. And I've been in the climate or sustainability landscape for the past 5 years. I actually started at an early age, at the age of 17, where I started my own community-led project, educating community kids about providing environmental education and hands-on segregation practices for school kids in my locality. So the success of this project actually fueled my interest in sustainability and environmental-related stuff, which also made me jump on more climate-related projects. I was privileged to work on a nationwide risk education campaign at a local level in Ghana, and I also founded the Sustainability Week program, which is aimed at promoting education for sustainable development at university students. So the idea of the Sustainability Week is to instill a culture of sustainability among university students, and we have participating universities in Ghana, Nigeria, Morocco, and Tanzania within the Sustainability Network. I'm currently co-leading youth engagement at the World Future Council, such as championing on the Declaration of the United Nations General Assembly, right to a healthy environment for young people, which I find really, really significant. I'm also an active member in YOUNGO, particularly the Climate Finance Working Group, I joined YOUNGO Working Space in 2020, was then introduced by the then focal point, Marie-Claire Graf. And yeah, I've actually immersed myself within a finance working group because I find finance really, really significant, although technical, but it's an interesting space as well. Thank you very much. Definitely Jennifer should be next. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So I'll start with some overall background on myself. I'm based in the United States, but I'm Mexican and Colombian. So the work that I do kind of spans on the Western Hemisphere in the US and then throughout Latin America. I have my master's in healthcare administration, and my focus within climate change really focuses on housing and global health. I've worked with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the US, with the Red Cross, and with the International Rescue Committee from a refugee standpoint. I'm also a global ambassador for the United Nations Association for SDG 11, which is sustainable communities. And that's really what my work focuses on. I look at climate change and climate action through the lens of sustainable housing and human rights. So a lot of my work is focused on human rights, and with that being so, the working group that I focus on, or that I'm involved in YOUNGO, is the Human Rights Working Group, which just got started back up, which is very exciting. I joined YOUNGO at the tail end of last year, so I'm fairly new, and it's been a great experience. I was exposed to it through an opportunity that I had to speak at the Transforming Education Summit at the UN headquarters, which happened right before UNGA. And at that point, I still didn't know, how are young people really getting their voices heard or getting involved in the UN system and in regards to climate action, climate change. And during that experience is when I heard of YOUNGO and definitely got involved right away. So that's been my experience so far, and I'm really excited to be here and answer any questions. So I'll pass it on to Johannes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Johannes Enkono from Namibia. Basically, I have my honors degree in information technology. I also a member of YOUNGO. Actually, I joined YOUNGO last year, and in the meantime, I have many programs here in Namibia, more especially for like yearly African leaderships. I have participating in UNDP training, Tommy Erumelu Foundation, and also the SASCA and SADC entrepreneur training. So I have gone to many programs that make me to be an activist in climate change. I have been selected also here in Namibia to be one of the Lutheran youth activists for climate change, whereby I have also get that privilege just to be a delegate to the COP27 last year. So I also be a sustainable coordinator or Namibian yearly Namibian chapter. Also, I have done the programs with YARI on waste management to respond on climate change. And with YOUNGO, I have been also, I happen to be selected to be on the committee for Ocean Voice community management, where I serve as a graphic designer. I also engage with YOUNGO in some of the working group like adaptations. And today I'm here as a panelist for YOUNGO, just to respond to any question that is going to pose. That's who I am. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for all four of our amazing panelists for introducing yourselves. I think it will be a really interesting discussion because we'll of different experiences and perspectives as well from the interests and the working groups that you've talked about. So I think we'll get the ball rolling. We've had a couple of questions, but we also had quite a lot of pre-submitted questions as well. So I think maybe we'll start with one of those, and we can do it in a similar way. So just jump in if you've got a response, and also if all of you want to speak, maybe pick the next person as well. So they kind of split into two different groups of questions. There's some more general questions about international youth climate work, and there's also quite a few younger related questions. So those are the types of topics that you might find that you're asked about, and we'll see what else comes through. So hopefully that sounds all right. The first question is, what is the role of youth or young people in sustainability? So I don't know if anyone wants to kick off answering that one.
I can start off. So just to make sure I heard the question correctly, what is the role of youth in sustainability?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So there are many roles that the youth play in sustainability, and that's a big question to answer because sustainability is a broad topic. There's a lot of verticals and topics and angles and lenses to look at within talking about the umbrella of sustainability. But overall, youth are really setting the tone for the policies and what we expect to see changing. And we're stepping into those leadership positions. I would say the role that youth are playing at this point in time, it's very interesting because we're seeing younger people be able to step into those leadership decision-making roles. So our role now is to kind of set the tone and make and really influence and demand the level of policies that we expect to see internationally, the level of education that we expect to see on sustainability in our schools, just the different, I would say, really influence on policies internationally and demand those changes because we are going to be the ones making those decisions very soon.
Yeah, and probably to add on to that, what is the role of young people in the space of like climate action? So I think I'll add on to Jennifer, what she actually said. I think that young people do really play a significant role in shaping, the climate discourse. For example, particularly when I came into the climate space, the then issue was young people were not interested in the climate space, and there were a lot of stuff going on within the climate space at the international level where young people were not actually involved. And then a few young people actually came together, mobilizing friends and families to be aware, to be interested in the climate space, to help shape the whole climate agenda. And even when that was successful, there was a whole issue again about youth tokenism, particularly at the international level. And I think it takes young people to actually change all these barriers, change all these hurdles or obstacles. So I think young people do really play a significant role, particularly in shaping policies and also influencing decision makings, because at the end of the day, it's we that we're going to get affected.
Yeah,
and,
great.
to add to that is that young people are the backbones, so that they are the main users. And when we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about the maintenance. So once the main users, they are not understanding the way how sustenance, then it's a problem. So here it's a point that our youth, or us as youth, we are very much important when it comes to sustainability.
Great, thank you all for your kind of input on that. I think maybe one of the takeaway is kind of the idea of international policy and how that links to youth action. Leena, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that that you should not only look at the climate lens separately, but also look at it like in an intersectional way, because I believe that climate action won't be possible without gender equality. So an intersectionality of gender justice and climate justice is also an important issue.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent point about intersectionality as well. I think maybe a follow-up kind of question, if you have any advice to the participants, is maybe about the transition from studying to becoming a young professional or working in different sectors. Is there any could you give any advice about maybe how that intersects with action, or how maybe more generally you approach the transition, or you did approach the transition from studying to trying to get a green job, kind of an authentic green job, and work in that sector? Have we got any responses to that?
I can go ahead and answer as well. So yes, for the transition, I would say my journey, I didn't start my career going straight into a green job or going into this industry. I went into traditional corporate route, and then found my way here. And what I would say is, first, if you know that you want to be in the green job space, climate action, climate change, that you're passionate about that, that's perfect. That's a great way to narrow down your job search. But the next step then I would say is, what is your skill set? Do you want to be on the marketing side? Do you want to do finance? Do you want to do, I'm a project manager. So I was doing project management in tech. And then I moved into, and then I used that skill set to move into project management for a human rights organization, and then started getting more involved in international work, things like that. But I would say, you want to be in the industry, but you can have many different roles within climate action, climate change. So I would say, figure out what specifically do you want to be policy focused? Do you want to run for local government? Do you like any job can fit within climate change? We need people who do marketing, who do accounting, all of that, branding. So figure out what your skill set is and what specific job roles are interesting to you within the industry. And then from there, I would say, what I also started doing when I didn't have any industry experience is I started joining more of local professional organizations and boards that so I could get experience in the industry. So a United Nations Association, they have city chapters. So I joined the city chapter so I could start going to events, and then I got elected to the board and started doing a lot of almost like intern volunteer work within the industry while I still maintained, a job. And then eventually I had so much experience that I was able to actually get a job in human rights international work based off of the volunteer work that I was doing. And then from there, I was able to find my own organization, because now I have years of experience, I have the credentials, I have the skill set. I know that was kind of a long answer, but hopefully that paints a picture. But I would definitely say focus on the skill set and the specific role that you would want to get within climate action.
Yeah, and I think that was an excellent answer, actually. Yeah, there's loads to pull out from there. And I think voluntary experience leading to kind of careers and credentials is really good advice as well. I can see that I think all of our panelists have unmuted at some point during that. So Jeffrey, I don't know whether you wanted to go next.
Yeah, I'll actually answer. This is quite a broad question, and I'll actually answer it based on my experience. So talking about this transition to involving yourself as a young person within the green jobs. For example, I started as an activist, like at a young age. So I was pretty involved within this environmental space. But then my advice to other young people will be, first, education and training is really significant, and knowledge is really key, because if you know, then you really know where to go. The most fascinating thing for me about the SDGs or sustainability agenda is quite broad, and you can find, no matter what, I feel you can find an interest, because it's quite broad. You have SDG 4 talking about education, climate action. 13, you have sustainable communities, you have food insecurity, you have quality quality health. So I mean, it's quite broad. You can actually find a niche to place your interest in it. You don't necessarily need to follow everybody, because I've actually realized a lot of young people who actually call themselves climate activists because they want to be part of the SDG 13, but there are a whole lot of SDGs out there. There are a whole lot of green jobs. There are a whole lot of sustainability related jobs out there across. So no matter what, you could still try to pursue what you want. There is a way to actually tune it towards green jobs. So that's what I would say.
Just to add on that, I actually just look at like most of the careers, they are more welcomed on the platforms. Like to me, I started with I started as I study IT. When I look at I came just to understand that we only have one planet, and so to my points, I just came to realize that why can't I think of to connect technology with climate change. So basically what I'm trying to say is here that the youth people or the young ones, they just need to understand how to interlink their careers with climate change issues. So as I have just said in the beginnings that we only have one planet and then we need to sustain it.
Great, thank you. And Leena, did you want to add something as well?
Yeah, sure. So I found what all of you said quite relatable. And I started off my climate journey pretty early, like in school and as I was transitioning into my undergrad. So I started climate advocacy through I also started writing climate poetry and I started public speaking, and I also founded my own organization, which is catered towards working in the climate space. And so my advice basically would be to start off your climate journey while you're a student, so that you are pretty familiarized with this space, and then decide whether you still want to continue into this space.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that's a really nice myriad of different responses. I think something to take away is maybe empowering yourself with kind of information and a bit of research about what's out there in relation to maybe what you're interested in your situation. I can see that we've got quite a lot of questions about how YOUNGO actually works as an organisation. So we will get to those, but I think just for the sake of keeping on this subject, if anyone in the audience, if you've got a question kind of relating to what we've been talking about, or something not necessarily associated with YOUNGO and how that works, I think if you raise your hand, we'd be happy to take any questions live as well. I can't see everybody, so Isha, do we have any questions? Okay, in that case, I think we'll probably go over to the YOUNGO questions because we've got quite a lot of those in the kind of the pigeon. So there's a lot of questions about how to get involved in YOUNGO. People are confused or overwhelmed about all of the different working groups and they're not quite sure where to start to get involved. So again, I'll open the table up to anyone to answer that.
So I can go ahead with that. So
Sure, great.
The first step to getting involved with YOUNGO is to become a member. So in order to do this, you can visit the YOUNGO website and fill out the membership application form. And then you can participate in YOUNGO working groups. So YOUNGO has several working groups focused on different areas of climate change, such as mitigation, adaptation, finance, and gender and reducing inequality and inclusion rights, etc. And joining a working group can give you the opportunity to contribute your expertise and collaborate with other young people on specified climate issues. And then you can attend YOUNGO events, because YOUNGO organizes various events throughout the year, including webinars, workshops, and training sessions. And YOUNGO and attending these events can help you learn more about climate change and international climate negotiations, as well as network with other young people. And I think that's about it.
Okay, so just to recap, if you are interested in joining, you'd go on to the website, I assume. Is there a link that we can share to the participants attending today, maybe a bit later? And then you want to sign up as a member, and then you'd be able to contact the working groups from there. Is that, we've got that right? Yeah. Okay, on the back of that, there are a couple of questions about how you would recommend networking with members, and also how you'd recommend engaging with the working groups, because they tend to be quite large and it's intimidating to ask questions or get involved. So has anyone got any advice that they can give in response to those two? Jeffrey, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so if I get a question right, it's about how to network within the YOUNGO space.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so definitely it can be quite overwhelming. So first of all, what I would say is that the YOUNGO working groups are a lot. So first thing first, you don't have to join every working group. You don't have to necessarily join every working group. You find where your interest is. So for example, I found my interest within a climate finance and adaptation working group, but I'm more in a climate finance working group. Now, how do you get involved when you find yourself in a climate finance working group, or what kind of working group you ever find yourself? The beautiful thing about YOUNGO is just basically about volunteerism. No one is going to force you to do something. No one is really going to call you to, pull your hands to do something. You have to own up for certain tasks. And there are a lot of young people out there within the YOUNGO group who actually come up to volunteer their time to do certain tasks. I feel the significant way to network with people is to be active. I can't say anything more than that, but being active within the YOUNGO space, taking on initiatives, trying to support, building capacity for young people. First, you have to build capacity for yourself, be aware, be knowledgeable around your working group topics, then working closely with other people. So I think the key word is being active, speaking to people, testing their contact points for the group, asking what can I do to support the objectives of the working group. Simple. It's not necessarily a big deal, but it's just being active within the working group and getting closer to your contact points to know what the objective of working groups just involved.
Yeah, fantastic. So just as a follow-up from that, is it possible to kind of trial the different working groups that you might be interested in and then kind of settle on one? Is that how you could kind of approach joining YOUNGO?
Can you come again?
Yes, so in terms of someone who maybe has a lot of different interests, because you said there are a lot of working groups, is it possible to, I don't know, go to a few meetings or get in contact with a few different working groups and then decide which one you want to put the most time towards?
Yeah, definitely that is possible. It's possible to jump into different working groups that you want, just to have a feel of what is really happening in other different working groups. So no, you're not restricted. It's just a free working space. Just get involved, learn more about climate action, and learn more about the specific topics, or being like a thought leader within the specific working group. So you can actually jump wherever you want. No one is restricting you. You're not restricted. So yeah, I think that is it. And if maybe Jennifer, Leena, and Enkono would like to share something to that, yeah, I'll be glad.
Just to add on that, that's why when you are joining YOUNGO, you need to be very passionate on climate change, or you need to know what we are doing, because there is a lot that is going on different working groups. So as Jennifer said, nobody is pushing you just to attending workshop trainings and other seminars that are going on online. So it's really need a young people that is committed. No, and I have that understanding on what is really mentioned.
Great. Hopefully that clears up some of those questions then. I think we've got a couple of responses in the chat that I've just seen. There's one from Clara. I don't know whether you want to unmute and ask that directly to the panel. Clara, are you able to ask your question? Yes, sure, we can come back to you. And I think someone else has asked about a quick clarification. I guess your level of experience, do you have to be an expert to join the working groups, or can it be any level of previous engagement?
No, you do not have to be an expert at all.
Okay, great, that answers that, so that's good. I might just read Clara's question out so we answer it in time.
Wait, can you hear me?
Oh yes, we can.
Perfect. Sorry, it looks like my microphone settings got changed. Well, I just want to say thank you guys so much for hosting and being part of this panel. I just sort of wanted to ask, for me, when I joined YOUNGO, it was a bit overwhelming because I noticed it was very subject matter based and less specific interest based. And so I know for me, my specific interest is in being a diplomat and an aspiring diplomat within climate diplomacy space. So I'm interested in networking with, say, other students other youth who've interned in, say, like I interned in the U.S. Climate Change Diplomacy Office, learned a lot of really difficult things about the UN structure and how things can be improved. So I'm interested in, for example, one, networking with other youth who have that similar experience, and I think we could create some really cool projects to sort of talk about the UN and what needs to be changed for future generations. And then also, for example, as well, I speak Chinese. US-China relations are very important in the climate space. So I would love to network with Chinese youth who are interested in that topic as well. And so when you kind of come to YOUNGO with these very specific interests and these specific strengths, it seems to be a bit of a difficulty in you sort of have to kind of join a previously existing working group, or have tons of previous experience to start a new one. So I was wondering if you guys have any advice for sort of, if you have these very specific ideas and want to sort of implement them, and that sort of requires connecting with others, how you recommend we do that, or if is YOUNGO not really a great space for that? Thank you.
I think I'll recommend you to apply for COP28 for that, because you'll be able to network internationally with diplomats or decision makers. So I think that would help. And also, if I heard right, you're interested in climate policies. So if you apply to participate in LCOI for your country, and then you will be able to contribute to the National Youth Statement. So that's kind of like curating policies. And also for conferences of youth, 18 is going to be held this year preceding the COP28. So I think my advice would be to for you to participate in those.
Likewise, I think because you are very specific with what your interests are, it's not specifically related to YOUNGO, but there are, and it seems like you're US based. There are some UN, like US internships and programs that are based in the US that kind of focus on what you were talking about. One of them I think is called like the UN Summer Intensive Program. But if you want to connect with me, I think that was Clara, on LinkedIn, I can send you a couple of links that are programs that are based in the US that I think would align with what you're looking for. But full transparency, I don't know if YOUNGO has something that specific from what you were mentioning.
Great, thank you. Jeffrey, did you want to add something?
Yeah, so I think I read a question, and there was a statement saying, if I have a specific interest, such as working on a project with US Chinese youth, is there a way to utilize the YOUNGO mailing list? And for that, I would say to some extent yes, because if you want to do something within, like, connect this US Chinese relationship and start mobilize young people within this specific interest, you can actually leverage on the YOUNGO mailing list to find out number of young people who also have like a specific interest, or who find their situation, being between US and China, and you can actually mobilize them from the YOUNGO mailing list, because there's a lot of young people on the YOUNGO mailing in YOUNGO. And yes, so I think it's a great step for you to leverage on the mailing list to find that niche, that particular group of people who have that specific interest.
Yeah, thank you, Clara. I hope that answered your question. I think you put something in the chat as well. So I think accessing the contacts and the networking that's already available in YOUNGO is probably the takeaway advice from that. We've got another question from Nupur. I don't know whether you'd like to unmute and ask that to the panel now.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I'm very excited to be part of a YOUNGO. And I'm like, my background is from architecture and environmental researcher. And I'm extremely excited and really wanted to work on climate change part. So to be a part of a working group of YOUNGO, what exactly would be my role? As in, like, would I be in, like, as once Jeffrey said that if, for example, he had interest in finance, so he was involved in that working group, and with the time period, he was working in such green jobs. So I just wanted to ask, like, if my interest is in research and materials, sustainable materials, so will I be working in some kind of writing a report, or would it be will I get an opportunity for writing or to be a part of any action plan or of any strategies for climate change? What will I get such opportunities in the working group? Yeah.
I think I can go ahead and answer that. So it really depends on the working group. So I'll give you an example of my working group. So I initiated a project, like we are recruiting different subgroups within our working group. So people from my working group can be a part of different teams. So that's like whoever wants to be a part of social media subgroup, they can apply for that. And if they are interested in research, they can apply for that team. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, I'll be looking forward for that.
Okay, just to on that a bit is that it is really depend on the working group, because like to my working group is that I have technical background, so that's why in my working group I'm there as a designer for the group. So to you, I think the working group will see based on your background. So just apply and then you will see from them how you are going to be placed. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Hopefully that answers that question. I think we'll move on just for the sake of time, because it is getting ahead of us a bit. I think another question has just come in. Where was it? Yes, so it says, did YOUNGO choose people to attend COP28 for the International Youth Climate Delegate Programme? I don't know whether any of you can answer that. It's quite specific. Jeffrey, you want to?
Yes, that is quite a big question. For the International Youth Climate Program for the COP28, the selection committee of YOUNGO, they actually work with the COP28 presidency to select the participants based on their criteria given to them. So they select the participant they deem qualified to serve as the 100 delegates. To some extent, I would say yes, not necessarily YOUNGO, but the selection committee. But at this moment, I would say that they are following procedures under the COP28 presidency to select those delegates. But it's not necessarily, you don't have to be a YOUNGO member to be privileged to be selected. And I think that is the good news.
Great, thank you. Hopefully that clears that one up a bit. I think we'll steer away for the last couple of minutes from the YOUNGO and how that works set of questions, because we've got a couple which are kind of different topics, which I think might be quite nice. The first one is how you would recommend, or maybe what you do to tackle climate or eco-anxiety. Anyone want to jump with that one? Does anyone want to answer that question? Because I can also skip it as well.
Maybe I could try.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if I've experienced climate anxiety though, but then sometimes I know you get the feeling where you really want to see certain change and nothing is really happening, and you feel like there's no progress actually being made. Definitely it's not fun. Sometimes it's not really fun to be in a climate space. It's not fun. What I would advise is, especially what I've actually observed from some of my friends within the spaces, you are human as everyone. You're just taking a different path to make the world a better place, or to commit your career to climate stuff, and that is not really fun. But you are human. You also need to take breaks sometimes. It's really significant and important. You need to take breaks sometimes when you feel the need be. Yeah, have fun as well. It's a really big topic. It's a really big problem and cannot be solved by one person. So just do what you can do. Do the little things you can do. Yeah, that's what I would say.
So in addition to that, I just say stay optimistic, because it's easy to get discouraged by the enormity of the challenge we face and experience eco-anxiety. But it's important to remain optimistic, because there are many reasons to be hopeful, including the rapid growth of renewable energy and the increasing awareness of the urgency of the climate issue, and the fact that people all over the world are congregating to take action. So yeah, that's it.
And then to quickly add on to that, I would say to kind of battle that eco-climate anxiety, focus on what you can do, because you can't control what others are doing or are not doing. So that's something wonderful about joining YOUNGO or being active, is that if you are an active participant, I think that eases some of it, because you put yourself in those spaces where you are seeing the progress, where you are seeing changes being made, and you know that you are doing everything that you can, which is all you can ask of yourself. And then kind of similarly to what Jeffrey was saying, making sure that you have balance. So it's interesting because coming from a corporate career, I came from having a job where I was like, this doesn't matter, this doesn't affect anything in the world, like what, and then I went into human rights, where it's like, this is the most important thing ever, I have to dedicate my whole life to this. And yes, it gives you a big being in this space gives you a very great sense of fulfillment and purpose, but with that comes a heavy sense of responsibility and accountability. So knowing that you're stepping into this, you will be very fulfilled, it will give you a strong purpose, but knowing that the negative side is that it can be very heavy. So either way, making sure you have balance and spending time in other spaces or doing other things that kind of fulfill the other aspects of life, and making sure that you're still, you know, being social and having and doing other, and if you spend time doing other things that aren't related to climate action, like that is okay. Like you should do that. It doesn't have to be your life 24/7.
Just to add on, characters is the matter here. So be who you are and try to make a change. Thank you.
Wow, I think there's some extremely wise words and yeah, heartwarming sentiment as well. I think also in climate students, we've kind of talked about a lot of that, and we found that community, whether that's kind of for the more serious stuff, but also the more social aspect, is really important because you have that space, I think, as all our panelists have said. So yeah, fantastic. I think just as a quick closing kind of question, so very brief responses. Someone has asked what your kind of best experience would be, or that you've had as part of YOUNGO. So I don't know whether it's hard to pinpoint that, or do you want a couple of minutes to think about it maybe? Yeah, Jennifer, you want to go?
Sure. So it came to mind easily just because you just mentioned the word, Lucy, but community in general, I would say. There's not a specific event that I can think of, but in general, what I have gained the most from YOUNGO isn't actually, you know, oh, I made this specific change or I passed this policy or whatnot. It's the ability to build community with people that are like-minded and that care about the same thing. It's very fulfilling, and it makes it a lot easier to take whatever ideas or hopes or dreams you might have and then turn it into reality, because you're in that space with people that want the same thing. So I would say my favorite memory of my favorite memories from this space has just been the connections that I've been able to make with people across the world who want the same thing that I want.
Great. Have any of our Leena, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I can relate to Jennifer, and also if I'm being specific, I think being a part of LCOI, which is an event organized by YOUNGO, was a pretty good memory for me, because I learned a lot from that, from like having field trips and to curating policies to presenting topics like bringing systematic change in terms of plastic pollution. So yeah, and making connections and networking throughout. That was a pretty great journey for me.
Great. And Jeffrey, did you want to go next?
Yeah, talking about experience, I would say I haven't had maybe a major experience out of YOUNGO that I can highlight, but it gives me a sense of, you know, direction, a sense of fulfillment, being around with people who are like-minded, who are into what I'm interested in, and that I can also learn from, because it's really, really important to surround yourself with people of your interest, and also to learn from them as well. And also, secondly, I think it gives me this opportunity of improving myself on a daily basis, because there are a lot of things going on. When you talk about the climate finance, there's a lot of stuff going on within sustainable finance. And I mean, the YOUNGO Finance Working Group actually highlights basically what is really happening within the finance landscape, and it provides me the opportunity to really learn and to really be involved and to be active and be up to date in whatever is going on. So the results don't really matter, by just constant improvement, constant curiosity, and just, you know, being surrounded with people who have the same vision and same interest with you. And I think that is a best experience for me in the YOUNGO working space.
To me, is that it's really good to be involved, as YOUNGO give me experience on just more on collaborations. When I'm looking to the project that I'm doing here in Namibia, is that one of the projects that I'm doing is to empower women on climate leadership. So through YOUNGO, I have attained more knowledge and skills on how to do it.
Oh, fantastic. I think we've been very lucky to have these 4 people speak today. So thank you very much for taking the time to join the panel and to answer the questions. I know that I've learned a lot as well, not just about YOUNGO, but about, I guess, a mindset to kind of engaging in international climate work. So yeah, fantastic.